Decadent and depraved. That's what Hunter S. Thompson said about the Kentucky Derby. Or is it Darby? Uh-oh. He was from Kentucky. I'm from Kentucky. He was obsessed with spectacle, confidence, and with people thinking they were doing absolutely the correct thing. Americans say Derby, and the rest of the English-speaking world says Darby. Same spelling, same race, same emotional commitment. Nobody's wrong, everybody's confident, and that's English in a nutshell. But ever so often, people tell me something that I find absolutely delightful. That my accent sounds old. Not just old-fashioned, but specifically like 1800s English in England, which is impressive considering I'm not British, I don't have a time machine, and I'm pretty sure I'm not from the 1800s. But I am from Appalachia, which turns out to matter quite a lot in context to this statement.
How you feel? Good this morning? Hope you do. I'm trying to get on my feet again. Feel pretty good.
Because accents aren't just sounds, they're history. They're what happens when people move, start communities, get separated, argue about class, invent schools, invent radios, invent movies, and then decide suddenly that everyone else sounds wrong. English didn't split between British English and American English because one day somebody woke up on the wrong side of the bed and decided chaos. It split because history happened, slowly, accidentally, and with absolutely no concern of future comment sections on the internet. But before we get anywhere near America, we need to rewind, because the biggest misconception that people have about English is that there's any one correct way to speak it. There wasn't, there isn't, and there will never be. Before the 1800s, the way that English was spoken varied wildly across the country. It was regional. London didn't sound like Bristol, Manchester didn't sound like Cornwall, and nobody thought that was a problem. It was geography. One of the most important things we're going to discuss here is what's called rhoticity. And that simply means if you pronounce your R's or not. Think of the word car, barn, and farm. Do you say the R? If you say car with a clear R, your accent is considered rhotic. If you say ka with no R, it's non-rhotic.
Wicked cow, is that new?
Today, many people consider a non-rhotic form of speaking as a more dignified, older form of English. But the opposite is actually true. For most of English history, the language was rhotic. The R's were pronounced hard, and Shakespeare most certainly pronounced his R's. You can test this yourself. Try reading his plays without the R's. They simply no longer rhyme.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against, essay troubles, and by opposing, end them.
England, Scotland, Ireland, all rhotic for centuries. Non-rhotic speech actually did not become popular until more recently, and then it began to sprawl out from London to southeast England. But not because it was more clear, because it became fashionable. And this is where America enters the story. When English speakers crossed the Atlantic in the 1600s and 1700s, they didn't bring a polished form of English with themselves. They brought whatever they had. They brought whatever English sounded like wherever they were from, and most of them were rhotic. Large numbers came from West Country, from England, from Scotland, from Ireland, and most of them brought their R's with them. They didn't arrive speaking American English, they just arrived speaking English. But then something important happened. England kept changing, but large portions of America didn't, at least not as fast. And this is where Appalachia comes in. Appalachian English is often treated like there is something wrong, but linguistically, it's quite the opposite. It's actually a very conservative historical version of English. Mountain geography, limited travel, Communities were close-knit, and that slows linguistic changes down. So Appalachian English preserved a lot of qualities that began to disappear elsewhere, such as stronger R's, more elongated vowels.
So when they got here, this was more along the lines of their speaking tones. But that's the first and second generations coming off the boat, not their children. By the third and fourth generations, the kids don't quite sound like mum and dad anymore because they're starting to develop a slight elongation of the way they talk.
And grammatical constructions that people now mistake for errors. Things like might could, fixin' to.
You clean those fixes up right now.
Or the house needs washed. Those aren't mistakes. Those are survivals. Even pronunciation quirks, like the R in wash, even though it's not there alphabetically, this wash fits the pattern. That extra R did not appear out of nowhere. It reflects older speech patterns where R's would have been added even though they were not there. They migrated into words. Now I grew up saying wash. I know. When I was in English class in high school, my teacher had me doing a speech about George Washington, and as I said wash, she asked me to spell that, and she pointed out there was no R. And that's when I realized, oh boy, I got an accent. Now, I stopped saying it once I moved to California. I became a little self-conscious about my native accent, and the longer I was away from it, the easier it was to work out. Not because it was wrong, but because Californians will look at you like you're from a weird documentary. So when someone hears an Appalachian accent and they think that it sounds like an older British accent, they're not wrong. They're hearing a branch of English that did not speed up to modernity at the same rate that England did, and definitely not the same pace as London. Which brings us all the way back to Britain. While America was spreading out geographically, Britain became more close-knit. It was tightening socially. The Industrial Revolution did not just change towns, it changed accents. When people moved to the cities and social mobility became possible, speech took on a new job. Accents stopped being about where you were from and started being about who you were allowed to be. And this is where received punctuation comes in, or RP, as you might have heard. RP wasn't regional. Nobody grew up naturally speaking it. It was taught in elite schools, universities, and reinforced by institutions. This wasn't about clarity. Regional accents were clear. It was about distinction. Accent became the gatekeeper. It didn't just reflect class, it reinforced class. Britain deliberately pushed down original sounds, dropped others, and attached social value to accents. Pronunciation became performance. Meanwhile, in the United States, accents never developed into a more prestigious version with that level of authority. Now, there were prestigious regions, of course, but each region had its own accent. Nothing like RP to override everyone's accent, which is why American English stayed more varied and absolutely more stubborn, but ironically, more historically conservative. Now, you can still hear this in certain words that have drifted apart from English speakers, such as schedule. The hard sh was actually the standard in Britain at one point. The sh came later, but America kept the older version. Another one, lieutenant, or as I hear here, lieutenant. And I'm about to blow your mind with this one here. You used to say fall here as well before you adopted autumn. America just didn't get the memo. And the word gotten was common in English up until the 1800s here. Britain dropped it, America didn't. Now even vowels will tell you the same story. Words like bath, grass, path once used to commonly use the short vowel sound that the United States still uses today. Southern England later stretched them out a little more. Now, none of this is simplification, it's divergence. If you map rhotic accents today, the path is clear. Scotland, Ireland, West Country, most of the native speakers are rhotic still. London and Southeast England, non-rhotic. And Boston and New York, famously non-rhotic. because of their strong cultural ties with Britain, constant immigration. Now, this isn't intelligence, it has nothing to do with that. It's just timing. Now, and California enters the chat and complicates everything. California's version of English developed much later and had people from all over the world in a different way than the East Coast had. That mixing caused what linguists call divergent accent leveling.
You think I sound a lot? Thank you, I love a lot.
Or dialect leveling. Extreme features got sanded down, and then Hollywood and broadcast media amplified that accent to the world. Not because it was better, but because it was everywhere. Now, neutral accents are rarely neutral. They're just simply familiar. And one of my favorite versions of English dialect, the Mid-Atlantic, which was not real. There's nowhere that happened. It's a completely made-up dialect. It was artificial, combining forms of British English and American English. It took features from both, and then it was used on radio and in early Hollywood and by the elite Americans. Famous Mid-Atlantic speakers? Katharine Hepburn, Orson Welles,
I didn't want money, I wanted authority.
and Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Britain is blessed with a brilliant and great leader in Winston Churchill. No one knows better than Mr. Churchill himself.
Now, unlike other accents, this accent didn't evolve. It was performed, and it didn't appear by accident. In the late 19th century and the early 20th century, when the Gilded Age was at its peak, there were plenty of American families who newly found unimaginable wealth. And in that time frame, they didn't have the lineage of a famous name that the English aristocracy had. These families began marrying their daughters into the aristocracy over here. The Americans had the money, the English had the lineage, the prestige, and what became known as the dollar princesses. These American dowries saved many manor homes that were struggling financially. You might recognize this if you've ever watched Downton Abbey and wondered why the mom was American. That situation was actually very common for the time. And you might be surprised to learn Winston Churchill's mother was one of these American dollar princesses. These families moved between cultures, and the accents followed. You could say the Mid-Atlantic was like social cosplay, an audible handshake between American money and British prestige. But after World War II, this accent basically completely vanished. Now, the American elite felt they weren't fancy enough without an accent, so this accent played into that. Which brings us to the present problem. People confuse familiarity with correctness, and difference with error. If an accent doesn't match their version of what they expect English to sound like, they're very quick to call it wrong. But this is not how accents work. Accents don't decay. They're evidence. They tell us who moved, who stayed, who had power, and who taught whom. English didn't speak into good and bad versions. It split into elsewhere. So when someone says an accent sounds wrong, old, or lazy, what they're actually hearing is history. And as a fun little exercise, I asked a bunch of my friends and family all over the world, from Australia, Canada, America, and right here, to say the same words so that you can hear the differences one right after another, to see how English grew all over the world.
Car, bath, water, goat, bag.
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 Car, bath, water, goat, bag. Car, bath, water, goat, bag.
Car, bath, water, goat, bag.
Car, bath, water, goat, bag.
Car, bath, water, goat, bag.
Car, bath, water, goat, bag.
Car, bath, water, goat, bag.
Car, bath, water, goat, bag.
Car, bath, water, goat, bag.
Car, water, bath, goat, bag.
So the next time somebody tells you your accent sounds weird, just tell them that they're listening to history and that they're doing just fine without permission. Did you know the difference in rhotic languages before that? Let me know in the comments below, and please like and subscribe and do that little hype button if you enjoyed learning this today. And like always, thanks for listening.
Oh, what, now you're telling me what to say? Huh? Is that what you're doing? Yeah, didn't think so.
Get a bath, get some water, water the goat, give the goat a bag, put the bag in the car.